Hi everyone, Garth here from Tiny House South Africa. Yeah, I'm making a video today, and this video is really going to be about the development of Tiny House South Africa and micro homesteading ideas. And so if you watch my channel for some of the videos where I go on adventures, then this video might not be the most interesting video for you. But if you have any interest in sustainable living, micro homesteading, tiny house living in South Africa, then this might be very interesting. Today I have a good friend, Dus, who will be visiting me. Dus is a designer and he is an architect, and he is working on a lot of sustainable projects. Both of us live quite sustainably in our choice of lifestyle. I'm completely off-grid, working with multiple systems of harvesting my own water, my own power, dealing with my own compost, my own human waste. So Dus and I are about to begin a journey of potentially designing 1 to 3 different designs of a micro homesteading ideas, and this is going to be our first talk on site about what we're interested in doing. And I'd like to record the conversation. I'd also like to get a bit of video of the conversation and then put it out there. And if what you're interested in is more learning how to be more sustainable, learning about tiny house living or micro homesteading, you know, I've now been in my house for 5 years, and yeah, it's developing, you know, it's growing. I'm not moving it around anywhere. I don't really see that as a sustainable way to live, because I'm interested in growing my own food, purifying my own water, and living on clean power. So yeah, I think this would just probably be an interesting conversation for you. I'll probably cut out what's interesting, what's not. But yeah, stick around and please let us know in the comments if you are interested in participating in our journey towards what we develop and then what we will actually have on offer. Everything from, I think we'll do plans to actually a complete product. Then yeah, please direct message me or send me an email and give me your details, and I can keep you posted. I'm not adverse. I think it's wonderful that there are a lot of people offering many different forms of housing. My only concern is that a lot of those people that are providing products don't live sustainably, don't live in micro home spaces. So we'll definitely be able to give you a nice finished product, but it may not be actual functional as per what it means to live in this small space, you know. So yeah, I hope you like the video, and thanks always for watching, and let's see where this goes. I'm excited to begin this journey. So yeah, cool, thanks for coming. Yeah,
thank you.
And I think it's just nice to take everything in my YouTube I've been talking about. I've had this little principle called just one step. Kind of goes with that 1,000-mile journey begins with just one step, you know. And it's sometimes we can't see how we get to the destination, and sometimes that's beneficial. But as long as we're always taking a single step towards that process, you know, towards where we want to head, it's one step closer, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, and I think really when I was thinking about it today and I was setting up, I was thinking about how when I was about to want to build this, I remember coming to visit you at the Barefoot Palace, yeah, and coming to have a chat about it. So yeah, so I think it's kind of cool how it's come around to us conversing about creating something, which would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so today I was just thinking about having a conversation, and the conversation being about, you know, how, I mean, I know we both are living as sustainable as we can in our own ways, you know. I'm kind of got my own power, but I have 3 sources of power. I have solar as a primary, Eskom as a backup, generator as a third, you know. So to manage to manage the batteries and that,
Yeah.
and to get the best longevity out of the power. Water, catching rainwater, grey water systems, so all the runoff from inside the house going to banana circles and stuff, but catching enough water. We started off for 2 years with just 2,500 liters. Now we're on 7.5, and we have another 2.5 in the back, so we're on 10,000 liters. You know, how much water do people need? You know, yeah, and that's like a thing to think about, because you might have your homestead, but how much water is required in that homestead if you wanted to be off grid, if you had no way to plug in? I know that like 250 liters of water is not enough, you know, if you don't have a way to just plug in and fill up a tank every day, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas 2,500 liters, you might work out at having 50 or 100 liters a day. That means you've got 25 days worth of water. You know, it's just thinking
which still isn't enough, really, especially now that we're moving into drought and moving into really a fire situation across the world in many ways, right? So water is going to become 1,000 times more important than it is right this minute. And to you and I, it's already, you know, we already know the weather, we know the patterns, we know when we should be expecting rain. I'm not even sure how many people today of our cultural background are so aware, because you don't have to be aware.
Sure.
So when I was speaking to Picky Lombard, who's for generations has been the water guy in Plett, he's a municipal water manager, and he taught me how to divine for water with rods. He still uses that, and it works. Okay, so we found a borehole using that technique, and then invested money into the hole based on the divination using rods. He tells me that a family of 4 should have 30,000 liters, 30,000, and that should take them through any droughts. But that was 10 years ago. But for you and I, 30,000 that's a lot of water.
Sure.
Now, you getting by in 2,500 it's pretty legendary, but it's also viable, right? More or less. Did you make a plan? Did you have to fill up at all?
Once in 2 years I had to fill up.
Yeah, amazing.
We do have now a washing machine, which funny is actually more efficient. Washing machines are efficient.
And washing by hand.
Yeah, and dishwasher is actually very efficient.
Yeah.
But to keep the wife happy, and you know, it's just like efficiency.
Hey, that's number one efficiency.
Yeah. But it's really just, if I can one point that comes to, you know, I feel like this has made me, living like this has made me so grateful.
Yeah.
Grateful for power, grateful for water, grateful for what I have. Okay?
Yeah.
And gratitude is becoming quite popular. It's just like amazing ingredient to have an amazing life. Yeah? When it rains, I am so grateful.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps just saying that. Like, I have a rainwater gauge, and I document every month how much rain. And all of a sudden, I'm part of the system now. The rain is coming. I'm grateful. Yeah. I'm never like, oh, it's a rainy day. Yeah. I'm like, whoa, I'm so grateful. It's a rainy day.
It transforms our connection with nature, with ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
biorhythms.
Yeah, it's how the intricacies of that relationship and how it works is perhaps that's like an encyclopedia of information, but it's just simplifying everything. You know, like people are wanting to change from in a way like a mechanized kind of lifestyle or a corporate kind of lifestyle. People are looking for change and have this idea that getting tiny or getting off grid is going to be their salvation, you know. But it's like connecting to nature and understanding how systems are working wherever you are on this planet is going to already open the door for you to basically access that information. You know, you can live in a flat and be catching rainwater as best as you can and filling up a 250-gallon water. And that water can be growing like a little garden on your balcony, you know.
Yeah.
Or you could have a mansion on an estate that's already plugged into the grid and everything. But you could have a small solar system that when the ESCOM goes down, you have always got lights. Or your DSTV, no judgment, it's like whatever's important to you, but it gets you connected with the fact that, oh, those panels actually connect power, give me power, And then also you could have a rainwater tank. So if there's a problem with the mains or whatever, you've got that water, or that water can get into your garden. It's just finding ways to build awareness for people so that they start integrating those systems instead of taking this giant leap, which some people like myself and a lot of other people like yourself just were like, okay, I'm out of this way of life into a whole new way of life. But
Let's figure it out. Yeah.
But this is a 25-year process.
Yeah.
It's like, and usually when people just try and make that immediate switch, it tends to have a much harsher repercussion.
And maybe no sustainability.
No sustainability. A waste of resources, both financially, mentally, emotionally, and economically, because when you move somewhere, it's a whole new economic paradigm.
And the costs associated with moving, and people often forget that investment, and moving out of it again. It's like a thing,
moving back to where you came from.
Right. Starting again.
Sure.
Yeah, so I understand where you're going. I fully appreciate it. And I also see that from what I'm picking up is that these are all tools. These are all practical tools for connecting. But why are we connecting? So gratitude, right, is a fundamental key for me personally. Fundamental key to trying to harmonize with everything around me. And we understand that we have had to form on many levels, but we've had to connect with, let's call it Pachamama, let's call it our mother, let's call it the earth, let's call it nature, whatever we want it. Why have we had to do that in order for our transformation? And why do we feel that why do I feel that that is what people are looking for? That is where the healing begins. It's almost like going back to your mother's bosom as an adult and saying, thank you, I forgive you, please forgive me, or whatever. So my question is, how do we connect that understanding? So for example, we can say, okay, a tiny house is a set of tools for you to connect with your surroundings and therefore yourself at a deeper level. Yeah? Or you could also get a rain tank in your mansion. But why are we doing that?
Yeah. I think it is possibly, people are feeling a great dissatisfaction. It seems around the globe, people are, there is a high level of anxiety, there's high levels of depression, there's this need, there's this very clear disconnection from each other or oneself, most important, And I think life is very busy. Life is quite, it's never been so wonderful. I think actually I'm quite an optimist in where we are at on a big picture, but I think it's easy for me to be an optimist because I work a 2-day week.
and you live here.
And I have 5 other days to think about how to make life even more interesting, And so, whereas a lot of people are just working a grind to pay off something, to pay a rent, and I got to cut that guy again. Okay, cool. Or to pay a rent, or to pay somebody else's house off, or to pay for a student loan, like until they're 40 years old,
Just getting by.
I see this kind of idea of a tiny house or a micro homesteading or I say this very carefully, is like conscious community-based environments is really just so that one can free up time and fill life with gratitude, simplify so that your need to the cost to actually sustain oneself comes right down, so that there's more time and energy to really nurture and find out what makes people tick, you know, because most people haven't had the time in their lives to find out what truly makes them tick. Because when you find that, you know, living is easy. Abundance is easy. Gratitude is easy when you can't wait to wake up the next day to do what you love. But it's a little bit of a few steps back and a simplifying the process to get the time and the energy to feel it out. And, you know, so I kind of see it working on so many different levels. So the connectivity, the, you know, having smaller systems to work with, and definitely systems that one, if one doesn't even understand them 100%, just has an idea of an interest of how they work. Immediate, it's like a small step, you know, to, you know, just to grounding, you know. So maybe that's a nice word, is grounding, you know. We say connection, but also just to feel like, oh, I've got I'm important in this system, you know. It's not somebody else out there is controlling it, you know. And I think that's the problem with municipal living and city living, is no one knows where the water comes from. No one knows how it works. No one knows how the power grid works.
Well, this is the fascinating thing that I've always found through this journey, is that when one seeks to live off-grid, in a tiny house or in anything at all, if you're off the grid, then the first thing that comes to mind is the sense of empowerment and the question of, well, what is the grid and why do we need it? And so part of this movement, even this tiny house movement or this off-grid movement, is bringing up socio-political change and questions at such a rapid level, when people realize, why am I paying for you to collect my rubbish? I don't have any. Or I take it myself somewhere and we recycle it, or what have you. Or, yeah, so many questions. So at a fundamental level, it's going to, all these questions and decisions ultimately are going to require governmental change. And so through personal transformation and then choosing to take some of these decisions to become more empowered by collecting your own water, or dealing with your own waste, just really taking responsibility for your actions fully, then we immediately start to question group consciousness and our direction. But it's also happening at such a fascinating time where we can see fundamental shifts. So it's part of it. It's a very fundamental part of it, as people start to take full responsibility. And when we have these centralized governments, no one takes responsibility. And that's why it's gone so pear-shaped. Because no one's said, well, it wasn't me, you know, or it was him and it was 4 years ago, or whatever, you know. It's just a constant relinquishment of responsibility.
Sure. And the thing is, you can take the responsibility, you know, when you're self-reliant or accountable for what it is that you do.
Yeah.
It's an empowerment that no one takes away from you. You know, I've built this space and it's by no means perfect, but it's totally functional. And I'm very happy with it, you know. And I will always make it even better if I can, you know. But the thing is, it's what I did is inside of me. Even if the house is gone and the systems are gone, or even if I go one day to be more efficient and live in a place closer to town, doesn't matter, you know. It's all inside of me, the experience, you know. And so I think it's just really this conversation, is just the beginning of bringing to light the more intricacies. And another thing I just want to go on a sideline about is, like, a lot of the tiny house specifically movement is all the great videos and great houses and that. It's a lot in first world countries, you know. New Zealand, America, Canada, beautifully, you know, cost effectively, whatever, you know. But that paradigm is not working here, not where we live. In America, you go buy an old caravan for, go pick it up, go take it away from someone's house. They don't want it anymore, an old trailer.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. Today, it's like here in South Africa, you want to go buy an old run-down, like someone wants to sell you an old park home. The thing is almost derelict, and they want to sell it to you for 50,000 rand, and you must come and move it.
And there's no wheels.
And it's like, it's just like, so, there's this, this is like Africa is real. I mean, it's a real pioneer land still, because there's not the social safety net of the government or whatever. Those systems aren't really in place. And I personally am always quite realistic when people are contacting regarding tiny house living or sustainable living. And I try to be very clear and very realistic, because I don't want anyone to waste any resource, If people are really hands-on and ready to like deal with their own shit and live in like a shell until they can build a cupboard or whatever, then that's totally fine. And there are a few peeps that are doing that and happy doing it. But I think a majority of people just want to walk out of one environment straight into another, and have all the bells and whistles, the plugs and that. And the thing is, the cost to living ratio like that is kind of like, you go to caravan parks, like say I've been at Warrenwaterberg this last weekend, and you rock up there and there's people with these caravans, and that caravan is a reiteration of their home. They want to park it, plug it in, plug the water connection in, stick up the TV satellite, and they're at home. And cool, if you want to do that, then actually a caravan is probably the most viable and easily to move around system, and there's many systems in place. So don't try to create a whole new system, just use existing systems. And then that's much more sustainable, But if you really want to live closer to the land, or get a bit more grounded, or be empowered, then I think what we're kind of interested in imparting information, and also in our creation, is doing it with those sensibilities, which is like connecting with the earth, being more grounded, being empowered, and whether that's working with a client and helping them in that process of thinking in that way, and then bringing that into a product, or actually creating a blueprint for someone and a manual and a design that's legitimized in some way or form, like it's structurally has integrity, and it will be. But if you want to build it yourself, here it is, there we go, as a kit. We chatted about that kind of thing. But it's more just bringing the experience of living that way
understood,
into the product, into the actual final creation,
Well, something else that's come through, I agree, everything you said is absolutely right. And what was coming up for me when you were talking is what I felt when you first got here, when you said to me, when I first got here today. And it's a question of rooting ourselves in some place. It's like we are a nomadic people. Animals, we are a walking species. But things have shifted so much that we're no longer able to do so. So caravans give you that feel. But having both traveled for a long time, I haven't met any traveler who doesn't one day want actually to find somewhere to call home. And in many ways, we were looking for that home. So a sense of place is so fundamental to reducing anxiety. And when we live in a city, we haven't been there for very long, as a people, as a species, and living in that environment, in those houses and whatnot, we're not used to that. So it creates anxiety. Being able to live here in touch with nature, being able to see it and taste it, and know that this sofa might stay here for a long time, that gives you a sense of peace. And so with the tiny house movement, for example, everything that you said speaks to me of a new way forward that we can start to bring a sense of equality. When we talk about land ownership, it's quite a big thing in South Africa about people understanding not to own land. Not owning land. That is something that I can certainly agree with. But there are so many fundamentals to look at that at the moment, owning a small parcel is quite a good idea. Okay, when I say own it, I really mean caretaking it with a piece of paper that said that actually you paid a lot of money to somebody to caretake this piece of property, and you're going to do some stuff with it. It doesn't mean anything else. Because if you leave here for 10 years, everything will be gone and taken by the land. Okay. So my point is that finding a place and rooting there and starting small so that you can connect with self, so that you give yourself more time and space and energy to look inward, to start to deal with, even just to calm down, even just to relax. And then start, because when a house is small, you don't have to go too far. If something breaks, it's right there. It doesn't cost much to fix things because it's only 6 meters away and so on. So that means that you can be closer to your heart and you can work outwards. Now, I've lived in really big properties many times in my life, and also tiny places like a teepee and cottage, and not much bigger than this, and I always err on the side of tiny, actually. So it's not always my choice, but that's because of my deeper understanding that things need to be close to reduce your stress, to make your life more peaceful. Ultimately, that's what I've understood that I've been looking for, having been a nomad for all of my life, is to say, I live here now. And to allow that peace in my heart, and then I can work, and I can operate from there. So when we can talk about community, we can all share land, we can all share resources. But when I look at your plot here, when I've traveled around Europe as well, and I see there's old gardens that are actually ancient gardens, we just don't realize it. Just people have been living there for so long. They've got little plots this size, maybe twice this size, depending on the families. And they've got it so down that they know exactly how much corn to grow. It's going to do them and the chickens for the whole year. And their figs are 100 years old, these trees, and olives are 500 years old. And everybody knows that they're going to have to go out and help each other pick the crop.
Sure.
But they all live over there and there. But you don't need that much. Like an acre is a lot of land for one guy, one family. This kind of space here, maybe a little bit larger, okay, if you want to do some other things. If you want to keep animals, we start commune land again.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe.
Well, I mean, the atmosphere, and a lot of people, and this is quite a good thing, is a lot of people are like, oh, well, where am I going to put my tiny house? Or where am I going to put my homestead? And I'm like, have you looked at South Africa? Have you looked how much land there is here? And with fewer people living on bigger pieces of land, there's always a security risk or whatever. But the problem is people not just wanting to let anyone come live on their land, But if someone rocks up and says, I have a plan. This is my plan. I want to make this micro homestead. I want to manage a piece of land. I manage this piece of land that we lease on a long-term lease. Yeah. There's a lemon tree there. The owner never put it, doesn't water it. There it is. Gooseberry, low-cot tree. I turned all our shit into fruit tree beds, and now we've got all these beds. Granadillas growing there, hibiscuses over there, gooseberry. It's like, if one day we decide to leave here, this will be a little oasis.
That's right. You increase the value by your effort.
Yeah, so I'm not only another person on the land, but I'm making the land beautiful and partly taking the cost to maintain a small piece of that land. So it's like you can do that if you just have a clear plan to say to someone, these are my requirements and this is what I can offer. Sure, there may not be the legalities for it right now, because everyone hasn't figured out how to be compensated and there's too many gray areas. I'm a pioneer, so I'm happy to live in a gray area, whatever the consequence. And I'm a rebel in the sense that I'm going to fight for my rights, for what I feel is needed, because I feel like it's my human right to have a place to be until I give my body back to wherever it goes, and and I'm not hurting anyone, and I'm actually creating and showing systems of how to live. But it's like living on this piece of land, which is 3 hectares, quite a big piece of land, and big management, big management. People don't realize,
That's
it's like,
cost.
luckily this piece of land's all fynbos, so it's very low management, just fire management, But it's like, people don't realize you buy a big piece of land, all of a sudden now you become a land owner or custodian, but it's to maintain. Like, you can throw huge amounts of money at a piece of land and not even see what it does, So it's like to be conscientious of those kind of things before people make that giant leap, there's a huge garden over there. It has to be completely netted, not only to protect from the sun, but to use the water resource, get best value out of the water that's there, and then to protect from the birds and the wildlife that come to forage in the garden, as we do. So it's just like bringing practicality. If you look at Tiny House here, there's a little garden attached right to Tiny House, and that didn't work. That's been 4 years of a project trying to work, and it doesn't work. And now, last week, I create this fence behind you here, pallet fence. Pallet's a cheap resource. While I make the pallet fence, the dog can jump over the first iteration, so I make it a double height. And next minute I find, it's a perfect place to make a vertical garden. So our yoga tubs that we use every week can go in there, and we can actually make like a little vertical garden. So it's in the practical that you find, oh wow, this system might just work perfectly for here.
That is really very good.
So it's multifunctional. It's not only a fence to keep our puppies inside, it also then becomes a garden. And with this eventually...
Every fence is, actually. I mean, that's something else. But every fence is an opportunity. But I hear you.
So cool. I mean, I don't want this to be too long.
No, it's good. But one thing I want to say is that fundamentally, all the things that you were saying about being able to come and live in this property, you've taken huge responsibility for yourself.
Sure.
And that's something that people really need to understand. Prior to embarking in any kind of venture where they think it's going to change them, they need to be truly honest about it. Because if they're not going to fully invest, if they're going to do a half job, or if they're only going to stay for a short time, or if they're not able to get on with other people and make a plan, no matter how difficult that might be, then they need to make other decisions, right?
Sure.
You got to be honest, and you got to take full responsibility for yourself before you act on these things.
And there's never been so much information available, like to make clear decisions, but to get ready. I mean, I put my solar in through the internet, and when I needed more localized information, I went to the electrical shop, and I was like, I'm about to do this. I don't want to shock myself to death, and I can't really afford electrical, and I don't need it signed off, but I need to kind of have power. Could anyone give me some clear insight here? Ask for help.
I did the same thing, and they told me we can't help you at all. But there was an electrician standing next to me, and he told me all I needed to do.
So it's really just there are going to be places where people can't tell you the way. You're going to have to make your own way. And have conviction in that way that you've chosen. Because as an empowered, self-reliant human being, it's in our DNA. Long time ago, we walked the lands freely. We feared no darkness. We only took what we needed. We were so part of the cycle of life. And today we have everything offered to us on a plate, but we're so disconnected from those resources. And it's like, when you meet people that are connected to them, they have a whole different vibrational experience, And I think it's very hard to offer that up over an internet resource or whatever, but I think it's just providing a really good value, a very good resource for clear information. And I look forward to taking what we're speaking about and giving it our best shot, committing to it, and putting it into a manifestation of something, a micro homestead, I like the idea of that, you know.
Yes.
Not particularly needing to be on a trailer or anything, but definitely thinking about the sustainability and efficiency of what does a small space need, you know, coolness, warmness, water catchment, solar, geyser, all those practicalities, and just simpler, creating simple systems, you know. And, you know, it might work out small, it might work out big, it might have the potential to be a bigger space as well, like this space started off there and now slowly is developing into this, you know. So it could have a long-term plan, you know, with simple modifications that can go into it. So as you can afford to grow into your space, grow into your systems, wonderful.
Yep.
Instead of taking on systems that are too big and unsustainable for a single person or a single family, you know. Now it's like, oh, we're very ready to run multiple slightly bigger systems, you know. So cool, Das. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for that. I mean, it's really, really nice. I think you speak beautifully from the heart, you know, and I think an engaging conversation is kind of, you know, for a lot of people, they might watch us and be like, wow, I just want a tiny house. And, you know, definitely, you know, I know there are definite people out there that are providing that they'll scratch that itch you have, you know. And I know that there's a lot of people that are thinking, and there's a lot of people that are switching on to the fact that there's much more to it, you know.
Yeah.
And there's really, there's no price. The entry level point can be from living in a canvas tent with a small system and a really self-reliant conviction to a plot with a beautiful house and an Airbnb connection. There's no, like, it can be for any sector, you know. But it's approaching it in the right way, which I think is important.
Absolutely.
And I think that's nice that we speak about this and see where we can go next.
Thank you. Intention and results.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was a great talk. I'm super stoked with some of the stuff that we covered. Thank you very much for watching this, if you have watched it this far. But as you might have heard, there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff coming out of where we are, what we're talking and planning on doing. If anything of what we were speaking about has any interest to you, then I'll ask you please to perhaps send me an email. My email is connected to my YouTube channel or my Facebook. You can send me a DM and give me your email address. And as we produce content and produce plans or produce our first building, which we intend on doing, we can keep you informed. And once again, thank you for watching. Much appreciated, and wishing you a great week, a great day, and all good health and good prosperity. Chat soon. Bye.